28 years ago, a movie dropped with a title so absurdly long, it barely fit on a poster. And that was honestly the least bizarre thing about it. Today we're going deep on Don't Be a Menace to South Central while drinking your juice in the hood. 22 facts that are strange, shocking, and some that will completely rewire how you see this film. Stay until the very end, because the bonus fact is something almost nobody talks about, and it changes everything. The list starts now. Number 1. The title is deliberately historically absurd, and that was the point. Let's start at the top, because even the name of this movie is a punchline. The full title, Don't Be a Menace to South Central While Drinking Your Juice in the Hood, is one of the longest to ever appear on a Hollywood theatrical poster. Sean and Marlon Wayans built the ridiculous length into the concept from day one. The title is a deliberate mashup of 5 films: Menace to Society, South Central, Juice, Boys and the Hood, and the hood movie genre as a whole. Every single word in that title is a cinematic reference. The title alone tells you what kind of film you're about to watch and exactly what it thinks about itself. In Hollywood, a long title is usually a marketing problem. The Wayans turned it into the opening act of a 90-minute comedy, and that creative confidence set the tone for everything that followed. Number 2. The entire movie was made for less than $4 million. Here's a number that should make every aspiring filmmaker sit straight up. The total budget was approximately $3.8 million. In 1996 terms, that's practically couch cushion money for a Hollywood theatrical release. For context, Boys and the Hood was made for around $6 million, and Menace to Lao Society came in at roughly $3 million as an independent production that earned its distribution deal after the fact. Don't Be a Menace was a studio theatrical release, competing in that lane on half the money. Yet somehow, this scrappy shoestring production walked into theaters and commanded the full attention of Black America on opening weekend. The cinematography held, the performances landed. Everything that cost money somehow got done on a budget most directors would refuse on principle. The numbers were about to prove the gamble paid off in ways nobody expected. If you are enjoying this, take 2 seconds and leave a like. Subscribe if you want more videos like this. That support really motivates my work and helps a lot with bringing more content. Number 3, it made back 5 times its budget at the box office. Did that $3.8 million gamble pay off? Oh, it paid off hard. Don't Be a Menace grossed $8.1 million on its very first weekend, nearly making back its entire production budget in 72 hours. By the time the theatrical run wrapped, the film had earned $20.9 million worldwide. That's roughly a 5-to-1 return on investment. The average Hollywood studio considers 2-to-1 a genuine success. 5-to-1 is exceptional by any standard on any budget. Critics could say whatever they wanted about the jokes being too dopey and the structure being too loose. And they did say all of that, but the numbers told a completely different story. The audience showed up, showed out, and kept coming back. And home video would later extend that reach even further. Number 4. The director was a Harvard graduate who had never made a feature film. The man behind the camera was Paris Barkley, a Harvard University graduate with a BA in English, who had previously been directing music videos for Janet Jackson and LL Cool J. Don't Be a Menace was his feature directorial debut. He had never directed a feature film before in his life. His first ever feature was a theatrically released studio comedy on a tight timeline with a Wayans family production that had very specific creative demands. That is a high-wire act by any measure. Not only that, but Barkley later spoke openly about enduring significant homophobia on set during production. Despite all of it, he delivered a film that grossed $20 million and launched multiple careers. Paris Barkley went on to win 2 Emmy Awards for NYPD Blue, and in 2013 became the first African-American and openly gay president in the 77-year history of the Directors Guild of America. Not bad for a guy whose debut was a parody about nuclear warheads and absent fathers. Number 5. It was also Marlon Wayans' very first feature film. Most people know Marlon Wayans from Scary Movie, White Chicks, or Requiem for a Dream. But before any of that, there was Don't Be a Menace. This was his very first starring role in a feature film. He was 23 years old, playing Lock Dog, a psychotic, gun-toting, drug-dealing cousin who keeps a nuclear warhead in the back of his truck for self-defense. Not exactly a subtle entrance into Hollywood. And here's what makes it even more remarkable. Marlon co-wrote the screenplay alongside his brother Sean and writer Phil Bowman. As a first-time leading actor, he was simultaneously making his debut as a produced feature screenwriter. He came in completely prepared on multiple fronts. The industry was about to find out exactly who they were dealing with. Number 6. Ashtray's dad is the real-life brother of Menace 2, society's most iconic star. This is one of the most perfectly constructed casting gags in the entire movie, and most viewers never catch it. Ashtray's father, played as only slightly older than Ashtray himself, is portrayed by actor Lommard J. Tate. Lommard is the older brother of Lawrence Tate, who played the terrifying O-Dog in the very film being parodied, Menace to Society. So in the world of Don't Be a Menace, the actual older brother of the real-life Menace to Society star is playing someone so young and irresponsible, he's barely older than his own son. He dispenses life advice like no smoking my stuff, no drinking my stuff, and if you bring any girls up in here, make sure I meet them first, as if he himself is a teenager crashing a house party. It's a joke about the film, a joke about Menace to Society, and a joke about real-world family dynamics in the industry all at once. That is the Wayans family hiding the sharpest jokes inside the loudest ones. Number 7. Omar Epps reprises his character from another film and dies in 15 seconds. Omar Epps appears in the film as Malik, specifically his character from John Singleton's 1995 film, Higher Learning. Not a similar character, the exact same one, transplanted from one film into another. The scene is set 1 year after Higher Learning. Ashtray and Lock Dog run into Malik, who tells them he's heading back to college for his sophomore year. They wish him well. He walks away. 15 seconds later, a gunshot rings out, and Malik is dead, his name crossed off a list by a skinhead in the background, as casually as someone checking off a grocery item. The joke is brutal, savage, and also a sharp piece of cultural commentary. Higher Learning wasn't exactly generous to its black characters in terms of survival, and the Wayans noticed. They didn't just reference the film, they completed the darkest possible version of its logical trajectory in under 30 seconds of screen time. That kind of precision requires you to have actually thought critically about the films you're parodying. Number 8. The convenience store scene is a shot-for-shot parody of Menace to Society. The Wayans didn't just reference the famous Asian store owner scene from Menace to Society, they reconstructed it almost shot-for-shot, then filled every beat with escalating absurdity that inverts the original's racial dynamics. The owners aggressively watch Ashtray and Lock Dog, convinced they're about to steal. Meanwhile, a white customer moves through the background with complete impunity, systematically cleaning out the entire store, walking up to the register, emptying the cash drawer, and the owners never glance in his direction. The sequence managed to critique racial profiling in retail spaces, while making audiences gasp with laughter. It works simultaneously as comedy and as commentary. For a film critics dismissed as lacking depth, that's a remarkable balancing act to pull off in under 2 minutes. Before we keep going, subscribe if you haven't yet. Drop a comment telling me which movie or show you want me to cover next with strange behind-the-scenes facts. I read every single one. Number 9. The soundtrack went gold in under 2 months. While the film earned mixed reviews, the soundtrack was a commercial phenomenon. Released through Island Records on January 9, 1996, 3 days before the film even opened, it peaked at number 18 on the Billboard 200 and hit the top of the R&B and hip-hop albums chart. The RIAA certified it gold on March 14, 1996, meaning 500,000 copies sold in less than 2 months. The soundtrack spawned 5 singles, including Renee by Lost Boys, which became a significant hip-hop hit in its own right. What makes this especially revealing is the audience gap it exposes. Critics were writing off the film as too silly. Meanwhile, the music was selling out of record stores across the country. The audience that showed up for the jokes also showed up for the music, and the sales figures made that impossible to ignore. Number 10. Vivica A. Fox was cast before she was famous. Before Independence Day turned Vivica A., Fox into a global star before Set It Off, before any of the iconic roles that would define her career. She showed up in this film in a single-scene cameo as Ashtray's mother. Her only notable line comes when Ashtray asks if he'll see her again. Her reply, "Sorry, baby. You know there ain't no positive black females in these movies." Then she drives away and is never seen again, fulfilling her own prediction with perfect comic timing. That line, delivered by an actress on the absolute verge of superstardom, is one of the most precise pieces of meta-commentary in the entire film. It's the movie acknowledging the genre tropes it's parodying and turning them into the punchline before the first act is even over. Fox would go on to massive fame just months later when Independence Day dominated the summer of 1996. Don't Be a Menace got to her first. Number 11, Marlon Wayans was supposed to be Robin in Batman and still gets royalties before Don't Be a Menace. Marlon Wayans had been officially cast as Robin in Batman Forever, while Tim Burton was still attached to direct, set to star opposite Billy D. Williams as Two-Face. Then Joel Schumacher replaced Burton, recast everything, and Chris O'Donnell became Robin instead. The Batman franchise moved in a direction it would spend the next decade trying to recover from. But here's what makes this legendary. Marlon Wayans was under contract. Due to a specific clause in his agreement, he has been receiving royalty payments from the Batman franchise ever since. Every VHS, DVD, Blu-ray, and streaming licensing deal. He was replaced before a single frame was shot, walked away from the role that became one of the most mocked superhero performances of the decade, and kept getting paid for it anyway. That is either the greatest consolation prize in Hollywood history or brilliant negotiation, possibly both. Number 12. The film parodies at least 6 major movies. Most viewers only catch 2. The average viewer thinks Don't Be a Menace. Mainly spoofs Boys and the Hood and Menace 2 Society. Those are the obvious two, but the actual reference list goes far deeper. The film directly parodies Boys and the Hood, 1991, Menace Second Society, 1993, Juice, 1992, South Central, 1992, Higher Learning, 1995, Dead Presidents, 1995, and Poetic Justice, 1993. The characters themselves are built from multiple source materials simultaneously. Dashiki is based on Ronnie from Menace 2 Society, Justice from Poetic Justice, and Brandy from Boys and the Hood, all at once. Lock Dog pulls from O-Dog, Lucky from Poetic Justice, and Doughboy from Boys and the Hood at the same time. The layering is extraordinary for a film most people encounter as a casual comedy. There is a graduate-level film studies thesis hiding inside what looks like a collection of escalating gags. The Wayans did their homework and then buried it inside jokes about nuclear weapons. Number 13, Keenan Ivory, Wayans cameos, as a parody of himself within his own film. Keenan Ivory Wayans, the eldest brother who produced the film from the outside, appears as the mailman, a recurring character who shows up immediately after any character delivers a long, preachy moral speech, declares message with the gravity of a prophet, and then vanishes. This is a direct parody of the mailman character from Boys and the Hood, who served a similar didactic function in Singleton's film. The Wayans clocked it as a genre convention worth skewering and gave Keenan the role of skewering it. But here's the brilliant meta layer. At the end of the film, when Lock Dog gives an extended, rambling, incoherent speech, the mailman appears, and for the first and only time, doesn't say message. He looks at Lock Dog and says, "What the hell is he talking about?" Keenan wasn't just cameoing in his brother's film. He was making a joke about the entire genre of didactic black cinema, including films his own family helped define, while producing the whole project from outside. That level of self-awareness is rare. Quick reminder to subscribe if you are enjoying these revelations. And tell me in the comments, do you know any strange fact about this movie that I didn't mention? Let's build the list together. Number 14. The actress who plays Grandma was 70 years old with decades of career. The scene-stealing force of nature who plays Grandma, the marijuana-smoking, profanity-unleashing, church-going elder who launches into physical combat at a moment's notice, was actress Helen Martin, who was 70 years old when this film was made. Martin had a career stretching back to the early 1970s with appearances on Good Times and 227. By the time she showed up on the set of Don't Be a Menace, she had absolutely nothing left to prove to anyone, and that freedom shows in every frame she appears in. Her performance is so committed, so completely without hesitation, that it elevates every scene around her. She didn't play Grandma as a caricature. She played her as a complete person who happens to be absolutely unhinged. The difference between those two things is everything. Don't Be a Menace gave Helen Martin the most gloriously unhinged role of a remarkable career, and she delivered it like she'd been waiting her whole life for exactly this part. Number 15. Bernie Mac and Faizon Love both have roles before their real fame. Before Bernie Mac headlined his own Fox sitcom and became one of the most distinctive stand-up voices of his generation, before he was a household name with his own recognizable delivery style, he appeared in Don't Be a Menace in a supporting role, and he is unmistakably completely himself in every second he's on screen. That's the thing about Bernie Mac, you couldn't dilute him. Even in a small role in someone else's low-budget film, he brought his full, thunderous, singular energy. You genuinely wonder how a movie this small could contain him. Faizon Love appeared as well, going on to roles in Elf, Friday, and Couples Retreat. The supporting cast of this film is, in retrospect, a who's who of black comedic talent, either on the verge of breaking through or already well established. The film treated all of them as essential ensemble pieces rather than decorative names, and that collective investment comes through in every performance. Number 16. The film's sharpest social commentary is hidden inside its dumbest jokes. Here's the tension that makes Don't Be a Menace more interesting than its surface suggests. Beneath the nuclear warheads and absurdist gags, the film was making genuinely uncomfortable observations about real cultural dynamics and hiding them inside the loudest jokes. The character Preach, played by Chris Spencer, makes passionate, articulate speeches about systemic racism and the historical oppression of black people. The speeches are coherent. The analysis is even compelling, but simultaneously, sometimes in the same breath, Preach harbors a well-documented fetish for white women and is casually dismissive of Asian people. The joke isn't just that he's a hypocrite. The joke is that he's a completely recognizable archetype, the kind of person whose political rhetoric has evolved dramatically faster than their personal behavior. For a film critics called too dopey, that's a more precise and uncomfortable social observation than most prestige dramas manage in their entire runtime. Number 17. The unrated DVD cut actually makes the story more coherent. In 2005, an unrated special edition DVD was released containing alternate and extended scenes cut from the theatrical version. Most extended cuts add extraneous material removed for good reason. This one was different. Among the additions was an alternate version of the final drive-by sequence, where Ashtray actually attempts to save Dashiki rather than simply ending up on the ground. That scene directly addresses a continuity problem in the theatrical cut, where Ashtray's sudden position during the shooting confused viewers who couldn't track the spatial logic of what had happened. The unrated version provides the narrative explanation that the theatrical cut quietly left out. It's relatively rare for an alternate cut to actually improve the coherence of a story rather than just adding runtime, but this one does exactly that, which raises the obvious question of why it was cut in the first place. Almost at the end, and the best is still coming. Subscribe so you don't miss what's next, and drop your city or country in the comments. I want to see how far this video is reaching. Number 18. A credited actor never appears in the film, and nobody knows why? Here is a genuine, unresolved Hollywood mystery. The opening credits of Don't Be a Menace list Robert Schimmel as a cast member. His name is right there in the titles, presented alongside the rest of the credited cast. The problem? He does not appear anywhere in the finished film. Not in a credited scene, not in the background, not in the unrated cut. He's also absent from the end credits. Only the opening ones list him. No official explanation has ever been given. Was there a scene filmed and completely cut? A contractual dispute that prevented his footage from being included? An elaborate prank nobody has owned up to? A production error that slipped through quality control? To this day, nearly 3 decades later, nobody has publicly explained what happened. That mystery sits there, unresolved, buried inside a comedy that most people assume they already know completely. Number 19. There's a barber cape continuity error. that nobody fixed. Here's a small but wonderfully persistent detail viewers have been flagging for nearly 3 decades. During the scene where Ashtray gets a haircut from his father, the continuity is visibly broken in a way someone on set should have caught. In one shot, Ashtray is clearly wearing a barber's cape. In the very next shot, he is not. Then, right before the scene ends, the cape is back, disappearing and reappearing between cuts, as if it decided to take a brief break. In any other film, this would be a minor oversight. In Don't Be a Menace, where every scene already operates at the edge of barely controlled chaos, it has a strange kind of charm. It fits the energy so perfectly, it almost seems intentional, like the movie itself couldn't be bothered to keep track of small details when there were nuclear warheads and mailmen to worry about. Number 20. The driving instructor scene is one of the most brilliant gags in 90s comedy. Ask any genuine fan of this film to name a scene, and there's a good chance they'll eventually land on the driving lesson sequence. Ashtray is behind the wheel receiving calm, professional, by-the-book instruction. Everything is mundane. Then the instructor tells him to pull over outside a bank, walks inside, and the scene just waits. A gunshot rings out. An alarm goes off. The instructor sprints back carrying a bag of money, shoves a gun in Ashtray's face, and screams at him to drive. The genius is entirely in the construction. The buildup is patient enough that the audience genuinely doesn't know what's coming. And the fact that the instructor remains completely, professionally composed throughout, in the same calm tone he used for the mirror check, makes it funnier every single rewatch. The contrast between the absurdity of the situation and the total professionalism of the man creating it is the entire joke, executed with perfect timing. Number 21. Critics dismissed it, but audiences claimed it permanently. When Don't Be a Menace was reviewed in early 1996, the response was largely dismissive. Entertainment Weekly called many jokes too dopey. The Austin Chronicle wrote it lacked structure and momentum. Rotten Tomatoes reflects a mediocre critical score. By those metrics, the film looked like a failure, but the VHS release on October 22, 1996 turned it into a constant, lived-in presence in Black households across America. Families who missed it in theaters caught it on cable and home video and quoted it relentlessly for years, for decades. It is one of the clearest examples in modern American cinema of the gap between critical reception and audience ownership. Don't Be a Menace failed almost every critical metric applied to it in 1996. The audience didn't care at all. The critics moved on to the next film. The fans never let this one go. That argument has been running for nearly 3 decades, and the fans are winning it. Bonus: the long game the Wayans were always playing. Here's the fact almost nobody talks about, and it recontextualizes everything. When Keenan Ivory Wayans made I'm Gonna Get You Sucker in 1988, he established a blueprint. Study a specific genre of black cinema deeply, parody it affectionately, and turn that parody into something that reveals truth through comedy. When Sean and Marlon made Don't Be a Menace in 1996, they proved the blueprint still worked in a new decade. When the Wayans made Scary Movie in 2000, they took the same blueprint global and earned $278 million on a $19 million budget. Every film that followed, White Chicks, Dance Flick, the Haunted House franchise, traces its DNA directly back to that $3.8 million parody from 1996 that critics wrote off. And in January 2025, Marlon Wayans confirmed on Big Boy TV that a Don't Be a Menace sequel is officially in development. I'm going to do a sequel to that. People need comedy. Nearly 3 decades after Ashtray first arrived in the hood, he might be coming back. The Wayans have always been playing a longer game than anyone realized, and it looks like the game isn't over yet. And those were 22 strange facts about Don't Be a Menace to South Central while drinking your juice in the hood. This film is so much more than a collection of wild jokes. It's a carefully constructed parody with genuine social commentary embedded inside it, a launchpad for multiple careers, a masterclass in doing more with less, and a piece of black cinema history that critics tried to dismiss, and that audiences permanently refused to let die. If you made it this far, leave a like, subscribe, and comment which fact surprised you the most. And don't forget to suggest another movie that deserves a list of strange facts. See you in the next video.